I woke up, and they told me a name, John Jungkook, member of BTS. But that name echoed nowhere inside me. It was just a sound in the void. This place, which they call home, feels cold, strange. The white walls, they seem to watch me. My brothers, the other members, they smile at me, take care of me, say my memory will return. But there's something in their eyes, a tension, an excessive carefulness that gives me chills. Smiles seem too thin, like glass about to shatter. I feel their gazes when I'm not looking. Conversations stop when I approach. Is my mind playing tricks on me? Or are they? My own reflection in the mirror. Sometimes I don't recognize it. It's as if someone else is trapped there, looking out through my eyes. The feeling that something is fundamentally wrong never leaves me. A constant hum beneath the surface of everything. They say I lost my memories, but what if I lost something more? What if the truth about who I am is locked away not by amnesia, but by them? How far does the darkness go, when you can't trust your own mind, or those who are supposed to be your family? The first thing I noticed was the light, a white, cold, almost painful light that seemed to emanate from the walls and ceiling themselves. I blinked, my eyes stinging, trying to adjust. My head throbbed, a dull, persistent ache behind my temples, as if someone had been hammering there for hours. Where was I? I sat up in bed. It was large, covered in immaculate white sheets, almost stiff from being starched. The fabric felt smooth and cold beneath my fingers. The room was spacious, minimalist to an extreme. White walls, furniture with straight lines and shades of gray and black. No photos, no personal items in sight. An organized emptiness that sent a shiver down my spine. The air, it had a strange smell, clean, yes, almost like a hospital, with that penetrating odor of disinfectant, but mixed with it was a faint floral hint, something synthetic and overly sweet, that made me vaguely nauseous. I inhaled deeply, trying to find some familiarity in the scent, but nothing came. It was like smelling a vacuum. And that was the worst part, the vacuum, inside my head. I tried to grasp a name, a face, any memory at all, a meal, a place, a song, nothing. It was an absolute blank. A terrifying silence where my own identity should have been. Panic began to bubble in my chest, cold and sticky. Who was I? How did I get here? I stood up slowly, my legs a bit shaky. The floor was dark wood, polished to the point of reflecting the cold light from the ceiling. I was barefoot. I looked at my hands, long fingers, well-kept nails. They looked like mine, yet distant, as if they belonged to someone else. I touched my face, prominent cheekbones, a defined jawline. None of it sparked any recognition. There were clothes folded on a modern design chair. A soft black t-shirt, gray sweatpants, socks. I dressed mechanically. The clothes fit perfectly, but the comfort of the fabric felt strange, unfamiliar. Where was the door? Ah, there. A smooth surface, almost invisible against the white wall. I hesitated for a moment, my hand hovering over the cold metal doorknob. What would I find on the other side? More emptiness? Answers? Or something worse? I took a deep breath and opened it. A hallway stretched out, equally white and silent. The same cold light, the same aseptic smell with the cloying floral hint. There were no windows. I started walking, my bare feet making a soft, muffled sound on the floor. The silence was heavy, almost as if the air itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, a door further down opened, and two people came out, a man and a woman, both dressed in dark, impeccable clothes, almost like uniforms. They had serious, professional faces. Their eyes assessed me with a calm that seemed rehearsed. "Ah, you're awake," the woman said, her voice smooth but without warmth. "How are you feeling?" I don't know." My own voice sounded hoarse, strange to my ears. "Where am I? Who am I?" The man stepped forward. He was tall with dark hair combed back. "You're safe. You suffered an incident. Temporary memory loss. My name is Mr. Choi, and this is Mrs. Lee. We're here to help." Incident? Memory loss? The words floated, but didn't fit. What incident? "Don't worry about the details right now," Mrs. Lee said, forcing a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "The important thing is that you're okay. You are John Jungkook." Jungkook. The name echoed in the void of my mind, but found nothing to cling to. It didn't sound any more mine than any other name. "John Jungkook," I repeated, testing the sound. "Yes," Mr. Choi confirmed. "Member of the group BTS, world famous." He stated it like an obvious fact, perhaps expecting a reaction of recognition. There was none, just more confusion. BTS, what was that? "The others are anxious to see you," Mrs. Lee continued, gesturing for me to follow them down the hall. They were very worried. Others? Who were the others? My head started to ache more intensely. I followed them in silence, feeling like a puppet guided by invisible strings. The hallway seemed endless, all the doors identical, the light always the same. A sense of unreality began to wash over me. Was this a dream? A nightmare? Finally, we stopped before a larger double door. Mr. Choi opened it. revealing a spacious room. Unlike the bedroom and hallway, this one had huge windows, showing a pale blue sky outside, but the main light still came from panels in the ceiling. Maintaining the same cold atmosphere, there were comfortable sofas, a large television on the wall, a modern kitchen in the back. It looked like a luxury apartment, but still, impersonal. It lacked life. And then I saw them, 6 young men. They were standing, clustered near the center of the room, and they all turned when I entered. Their faces were vaguely familiar, like figures from a forgotten dream or an old photograph. There was a palpable tension in the air when our eyes met. Jungkook, one of them, tall, with charming dimples when he smiled, stepped forward. Wow, it's so good to see you awake. We were so worried. He approached but stopped at a respectful distance. The others also came closer, their faces a strange mix of relief, concern, and something else I couldn't identify, a kind of caution. These are your friends, Mrs. Lee said, her voice filling the tense silence. Your groupmates, RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, and V. She pointed to each of them. The names floated by, as meaningless as my own. RM, the guy with the dimples, spoke again. We know you're confused, JK, but we're here for you. We'll help you remember. His voice was calm, reassuring, but his eyes never stopped analyzing me. Jin, a guy with broad shoulders and a handsome face, smiled widely. You gave us quite a scare, maknae, but the important thing is, you're here. The term, maknae, meant nothing. His smile was bright, almost blinding, but it seemed like a mask. Suga, shorter, with an intense, piercing gaze, just nodded, arms crossed. He seemed to observe everything with a calculated stillness. J-Hope, with an almost vibrant energy around him, tried a radiant smile. Everything's going to be okay, Cookie. You'll be back to normal soon. His enthusiasm seemed a bit over the top, almost desperate. Jimin, with delicate features and a soft gaze, moved a little closer. We missed you, he murmured, his voice low. Was there genuine concern in his eyes, perhaps, but also a hesitation, as if afraid to touch me? And V, with an almost ethereal beauty and a deep gaze, stared at me with disconcerting intensity. He didn't smile, just watched, as if trying to read something behind my empty eyes. They guided me to a sofa. I sat on the edge, feeling the cool leather under my hands. They sat across from me, forming a semicircle. Mr. Choi and Mrs. Lee remained standing near the door, watching. The feeling of being evaluated, weighed, was overwhelming. The doctor said it's dissociative amnesia, RM explained, choosing his words carefully, probably caused by extreme stress and, well, there was a small accident backstage during rehearsals. You fell, hit your head. An accident? A fall? I didn't feel any specific pain on my head, just the general throbbing ache. No mark, no bump. I instinctively checked for an injury but found nothing. Don't try too hard to remember right now, Jin said, with that excessive gentleness. It'll come back gradually. We brought some things that might help. They started. Photos. Photos of the 7 of us together, smiling at award shows, traveling the world, hugging in casual moments. I saw my face there, younger in some, different in others. But it was like looking at a stranger who resembled me. I recognized the features, the bone structure, but the person in the photo, the expression in their eyes, the joy or concentration, they were unknown. They pointed to places, told stories associated with the photos. Remember this trip to Japan, Jungkook? You ate so much ramen you almost exploded. J-Hope laughed, but the sound seemed hollow. I just shook my head, a lump forming in my throat. Nothing. Next, music. They put headphones on me. A pulsing beat filled my ears, followed by a catchy melody and voices singing in Korean and English. One of the voices was undeniably similar to mine. It had the same timbre, the same cadence I heard when I spoke earlier. But the emotion in the recorded voice, the passion, the technique, seemed to come from someone else. It was a powerful, trained voice, but it didn't resonate within me. It was just sound. They watched my face intently, searching for any sign of recognition. I couldn't offer any. The music ended, leaving an even heavier silence. How about this? V asked, his deep voice breaking the silence. He pointed to the large screen on the wall. A video started playing. It was a mirrored practice room. 7 figures moved with incredible synchronicity and energy. Complex choreography. Powerful and graceful movements. One of them was me, or rather, someone who looked exactly like me. He moved with a fluidity and confidence that were completely alien to me. My body, sitting on the sofa, felt not the slightest twitch of muscle memory. I watched, fascinated and horrified. It was impressive, yes, but it wasn't me. They turned off the video. The silence returned, thick with unfulfilled expectations. I saw glances exchanged between them. Quick, almost imperceptible. A slight sigh from Jimin, a tightening of Suga's lips. RM shifting uncomfortably in his seat. Were they disappointed? Or something else? The following days settled into a strange, uncomfortable routine. They told me this place, this luxurious apartment, was our dorm, our home. but it didn't feel like home. It was like a very clean luxury hotel, or a movie set waiting for the actors. Everything was in its right place, too perfect. The few objects they pointed out as mine, a video game console, some art books, a pair of limited edition sneakers, looked new, without the wear and tear beloved objects should have. Meals were taken together at the large kitchen table. The food was delicious, technically perfect, but it tasted industrial, like first-class airline food. Conversations were light, forced. They told stories about our past, about tours, recordings, funny moments. I listened, tried to absorb it, but it was like reading a stranger's biography. Sometimes I'd ask a question about a detail, and I'd notice a split-second hesitation before one of them answered, perhaps a quick glance at RM, as if seeking approval. They took me to rehearsals in a practice room, identical to the one in the video. My body, it was strange. It seemed to know some movements. When the music played, my limbs sometimes moved almost on their own, executing complex steps my conscious mind didn't comprehend. But it was automatic, robotic. It lacked the soul I saw in the video. The others praised me. "It's coming back, Jungkook. You look great." But their compliments sounded empty, desperate. And I saw their own movements, perfect, synchronized, but laden with a tension that didn't match the music. We went to a recording studio on another floor of the building, a place full of state-of-the-art equipment, soundproofing, the smell of electronics and new carpet. They asked me to sing. They put lyrics in front of me. The melody was played for me. I opened my mouth, and the voice came out, the same voice from the recordings, clear, in tune, on key, but I felt nothing. It was like operating a machine. The producer on the other side of the glass smiled and gave a thumbs up, but his eyes looked tired, worried. The feeling of being watched was constant, even when I was alone in my room, that white sterile room. I felt as if invisible eyes were following me. I checked for cameras but couldn't find any obvious ones. Still, the feeling persisted, a prickle on the back of my neck, the impression that my every move, every word, every breath was being recorded. I started noticing more inconsistencies, small things that added up, forming a growing pile of doubts and fears. One day, during breakfast, Jin was telling a story about our childhood, and mentioned an ugly scar I had on my right knee from falling off a bike. "Remember how you cried?" he said, laughing. Later in my room, I examined my right knee. The skin was smooth, perfect. No scar, no mark. Maybe he was mistaken? Memories get mixed up, right? I tried to rationalize, but the doubt remained. A small seed of distrust that began to sprout. Another time, V gave me a hoodie. "This was your favorite," he said, handing me the folded garment. It was a simple black hoodie, but the fabric was stiff. Smelled brand new, not like fabric softener in constant use. It didn't have that soft, worn feel of a beloved piece of clothing. I thanked him, but didn't wear it. I left it at the back of the closet, another strange item in my manufactured life. And the mirrors. I started avoiding them. Whenever I caught my reflection, in a window pane, the dark TV screen, the bathroom mirror, I felt a jolt. The face was familiar now, after days of seeing it, but the eyes looked empty, or worse. They looked like someone else's eyes looking out from me. There was a silent desperation in them that scared me. Who was that man in the mirror? Certainly not the Jungkook from the smiling photos and energetic videos. The conversations that stopped abruptly when I entered a room became more frequent. The frozen smiles, the glances exchanged over my head, the excessive kindness that felt like a barrier, not a bridge. The fear began to shift. It wasn't just fear of the unknown inside my head anymore. It was fear of what they knew, of what they were hiding behind their concerned faces and reassuring words. Paranoia became my constant companion. Every gesture, every word was analyzed. Why was Suga so quiet, always watching? Why did J-Hope look like he was about to burst from contained anxiety? Why did Jimin avoid my gaze when I tried to meet his eyes? Why did RM always have the right answer, the perfect explanation, yet never seemed entirely sincere? Why did Jin cook elaborate meals that no one seemed to truly savor? And why did V look at me that way, with a mixture of pity and something that felt like dark knowledge? I needed answers. I couldn't keep living in this fog of uncertainty and growing fear. The feeling of being an imposter in my own life was suffocating. Nights were the worst. Sleep didn't come easily. The silence of the apartment was oppressive. The low hum of the ventilation, the occasional click of some appliance. I tossed and turned in bed, my mind racing in circles, trying to find a loose thread in this fabric of reality that seemed increasingly fragile. On one of those nights, the insomnia was stronger than ever. I got up. The digital clock on the nightstand read 3:17 a.m. The hallway was dark, only a few dim emergency lights breaking the total blackness. I left my room, bare feet on the cold floor. The silence was so deep I could hear my own breathing, the rapid beat of my heart. I started wandering aimlessly through the apartment. I passed the closed doors of the others' rooms. I heard soft snoring coming from one. Under another door, a faint light glowed. The rest were silent. The living room was dark, the shadows of the furniture creating strange shapes. The kitchen was spotless as always. I went back to my room, frustration mounting. I sat on the bed. I looked around at the white walls, the impersonal furniture. Nothing here belonged to me. Nothing here was mine. I ran my hand over the smooth wall beside the bed, almost a gesture of despair. And then, my fingers felt something. A slight irregularity. A fine line, almost invisible. I frowned. I ran my fingers over it again. There was a seam there, where there shouldn't be one. Was it a panel? My heart beating faster. I pressed the area. Nothing. I tried sliding it. Nothing. I examined the edge. There was a tiny recess at the bottom, almost imperceptible. I dug my fingernails in there and pulled carefully. The panel gave way with a soft click. It opened inward, revealing a dark compartment in the wall. My pulse quickened. I glanced at the room door, listening. Silence. I turned my attention back to the hole in the wall. There was something inside. With a trembling hand, I reached inside. My fingers touched a smooth, cool surface. I pulled it out. It was a tablet. Thin, modern, turned off. A chill ran down my spine. Why would they hide a tablet here? I sat on the bed, the tablet heavy in my lap. I pressed the power button. The screen lit up, showing a generic logo, and then a lock screen asking for a numeric passcode. I tried obvious combinations. 1234, La Rusu, my supposed birth date they had told me. Nothing worked. Incorrect passcode. I thought, what date would be important enough for a password, but that maybe they had mentioned casually. I remembered the stories, album release dates, group anniversaries. I tried a few. Nothing. Then, I remembered something RM mentioned about the accident. He gave a specific date. The day I supposedly fell and lost my memory. It seemed significant. A date marking the beginning of this new existence. I typed in the numbers for that date. Day, month, year. The screen flickered and unlocked. My heart leaped. The screen background was black. There were only a few icons, files, settings, trash. I tapped files. There were vaguely named folders, logs, monitoring, protocol. A cold dread washed over me. What was this? I opened the monitoring folder. Inside were subfolders labeled with dates. I selected the date of my accident and the preceding days. There were several video files, named with codes and timestamps. I hesitated, then tapped the first one. The screen showed a security camera feed, black and white, grainy. The angle was from above, showing a corridor I didn't immediately recognize, maybe a service area or backstage. The date and time in the corner matched 2 days before my accident. The corridor was empty for a moment. Then 2 figures appeared, carrying a third person between them. The person they were carrying was unconscious, wearing rehearsal clothes similar to what I wore, and his face. Even in the grainy image, even with his head lolling to the side, it was my face. I felt the blood run cold in my veins. No, it wasn't my face. It was the face of the Jungkook from the photos, the videos, the original Jungkook. He looked pale, motionless. The 2 figures dressed in dark clothes similar to Mr. Choi's and Mrs. Lee's carried him hurriedly down the corridor and disappeared through a door. The video continued for a few more seconds on the empty corridor and then ended. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the tablet. What had I just seen? Was that me? Being carried away? Unconscious, but I was here. I woke up here. How? With trembling fingers, I went back and opened the logs folder. There were text files. I opened the most recent one. They were medical notes, or something like them, full of technical terms, but a few phrases leaped out at me, written in cold, clinical language. Project Chimera, final phase. Subject JK01 compromised. Cause undetermined. Extraction necessary. Activation of subject JK02 scheduled. Persona transfer procedure. Base memory imprint successfully uploaded. Induced amnesia as post-activation security protocol. Ongoing monitoring of JK02 adaptation and integration with group. Member compliance assured. JK01, JK02, persona transfer, induced amnesia, member compliance. The pieces slammed together in my mind with the force of a physical blow. The air left my lungs. I wasn't John Jungkook, not the original one. I was JK02, a copy, a replacement, activated after the real Jungkook was compromised, extracted, gone, dead. The amnesia wasn't an accident. It was intentional, part of the program to make me believe I was him, to ease the adaptation. And the others? RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, they knew, from the beginning. Member compliance assured. The rehearsed concern, the forced smiles, the strange glances, the interrupted conversations, the distant kindness. It all made sense now. It was the horror of complicity. They were trapped in it, acting to maintain the facade. To protect what? The group's image? The financial empire? Nausea rose in my throat. My room, the apartment, my entire life since waking up, was an elaborate lie. I wasn't a person with amnesia. I was a construct, a tool, a reflection in a broken mirror, created to replace someone who was gone. The throbbing headache now felt like the phantom pain of an identity that was never mine. The void in my mind wasn't loss, it was an absence of origin. I sat there on the bed, the tablet still glowing in my lap, its cold light illuminating my shocked face. The world had fallen apart. Who was I then? If I wasn't Jungkook, was I nothing? Just a set of programmed responses in a clone body? The existential horror was so overwhelming it left me paralyzed, unable to breathe, unable to think. Then I heard it. A soft sound in the hallway, footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming towards my room. Panic hit me full force. I quickly turned off the tablet screen, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would burst. I shoved the tablet back into the secret compartment, hastily closing the panel. I stayed there, frozen, listening to the footsteps stop right outside my door. Silence, a silence that lasted an eternity, heavy with unbearable tension. Then the doorknob slowly turned. The door opened with an almost inaudible creak. A silhouette stood there against the dim light of the hallway. For a moment, I couldn't make out who it was. Then the figure took a step into the room, and the residual light illuminated his face. It was Jimin. His face was calm, almost serene, but his eyes, there was something in them I hadn't seen before, a deep sadness perhaps, or resignation. He looked at me sitting on the bed in the dark. A small smile touched his lips, an unreadable smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Can't sleep, Jungkook." His voice was soft, almost a whisper, but the name, Jungkook, now sounded like a sentence. Did he know that I knew, or was it just a terrible coincidence? The smile remained, hanging in the air between us, full of unsaid meanings and implicit horrors. I remained there, mute, the shock of the revelation still paralyzing me, the fear of what came next holding me in place. My eyes were fixed on his, desperately searching for some clue, some indication of what he knew, what he intended. The smile on his lips didn't waver, but his eyes, there was a depth in them now, an old sadness that seemed to mirror the horror I had just uncovered. He knew. Somehow, he knew. Maybe he saw the sliver of light from the tablet under the door. Maybe he heard the soft click of the panel. Or maybe he could simply read the truth stamped on my terrified face. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Every second was agony. I couldn't form words. My throat was tight, my body frozen. Confront him, scream, cry. Nothing seemed possible. I was a statue of fear and confusion. Finally, Jimin's smile faltered, just slightly, wilting into something more like pity. He took another step into the room, closing the door behind him with infinite care, the click of the latch sounding unnaturally loud in the silence. "I figured you'd find out," he whispered, his voice so low I almost didn't hear it. There was no accusation in his tone, just a weary resignation. "You were always curious, observant, even now." Even now? Was he comparing me, the copy, to the original? The thought brought another wave of nausea. "It's better this way, isn't it?" he continued, looking down at his own hands for a moment before meeting my eyes again, not knowing. "Ignorance can be kind. We tried." He trailed off, shaking his head slightly. "We tried to protect you from this." Protect me? Or protect themselves? Protect the house of cards that was BTS's image? His words were soft, almost gentle, but they sounded like chains tightening around me. "The show must go on, Jungkook," he said, and now there was an almost imperceptible firmness in his voice, the gentleness giving way to a somber necessity. "For all of us. For you. This is your life now. The only one you have. The only one I have. A borrowed life. A lie lived under the spotlight and the constant, complicit gaze of those I was supposed to call brothers. The truth was a prison, and the ignorance he called kind was just the painting on the cell walls." He approached the bed. For a moment I thought he might touch me, perhaps offer some false comfort, but he just stood there, looking down at me, with that unbearable mixture of pity and determination. "Try not to think too much about it," he advised, as if talking about a trivial worry, not the complete nullification of my existence. "Just be the Jungkook everyone knows. The Jungkook they love. It's enough." He turned slowly and walked back to the door. His hand rested on the knob. He hesitated for a split second, his back to me. "Good night, Jungkook," he said, without turning around. The door opened and he slipped out, closing it softly behind him. I was alone again, in the dark. But now the darkness wasn't just the absence of light. It was the absence of self. The silence wasn't empty. It was filled with the crushing weight of the truth. The secret compartment in the wall seemed to pulse with its forbidden knowledge. I was JK02, a reflection, a performance, and the curtain would never fall. The show, as Jimin said, had to go on. I was an actor, on a stage that spanned the entire world, playing a role I never asked for an audience that must never know the truth, and my stage directors were my own bandmates, my friendly-faced jailers. The horror was no longer in the amnesia, the loss of the past. The horror was in the newfound clarity, the awareness of my own fabrication, and the certainty of my perpetual imprisonment. Tomorrow, I would wake up, put on Jungkook's clothes, smile like Jungkook, sing like Jungkook, dance like Jungkook. But inside, I would be only the silent echo of a stolen life, the ghost in the machine, forever looking out through a stranger's eyes, and no one would ever know. That was the real terror. The absolute loneliness of a conscious, yet utterly false existence. The reflection in the mirror. Now knew it was only a reflection, doomed to mimic an original, who might not even exist anymore. Forever.
Did you enjoy the story? Subscribe, hit the like button, and comment what you thought. Pick a link on the screen for more stories.